Good morning and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. It's Thursday morning and the stacks for the markets are set up well. But I'll start off with the coronavirus updates across the world and in India as well. The cases have topped the 2.6 million mark. The deaths have exceeded 1,83,000 number. And the small good point on the global front and from particular city, which is the epicenter now, which is New York, they've reported the fewest daily fatalities since early April. But the Indian numbers don't look all that impressive. The total number of confirmed cases in India as of yesterday, late evening, were about 20,471. Active cases about 15,859 and about 1,486 new cases were recorded in the last 24 hours back yesterday. Keep that at the back of your mind. So that is as far as the India updates go. Now, what about the world markets? Well, the US markets did reasonably okay last night. I don't know if, like I said, at times we see the crude price fall and we see it's positive for India, but for the world markets, typically crude bouncing back, maybe some sign of a risk return or otherwise. And typically we've seen that when that happens, the markets tend to do well. So the US markets did reasonably okay for themselves. Asia is not starting off on a bad footing, neither is the SGX Nifty, which is all a good sign. Mind you, the SGX Nifty yesterday was a poor indicator of what happened in trade because we know what happened in trade. We really perked up in trade despite the SGX Nifty not quite showing that. So let's wait and watch, but at least the start might be positive, which is good. The only key thing that you've got to monitor is that the US futures are not quite starting off well. They've come off a little bit, awaiting the jobless claims data that comes out on Thursday. And mind you, the US agenda is featuring initial jobless claims today and the preliminary market PMI figures as well coming out. So the two important data points from the US economic perspective coming out later today, and maybe the markets would be on a bit of tenterhooks before those numbers come out. Now, the other key thing that you have to monitor when you're looking at the world markets, it's what's happening to gold. There was about a 2.5% uptick in trade yesterday as well, because there are hopes of a stimulus boost. We've already got 8 trillion or thereabouts in stimulus across the world. But people believe that if the stimulus measures keep on continuing, that fiat currencies at some point of time gets debased, or we might have a hyperinflationary scenario once all of this ends, and that might be positive for gold. So that's the update. Never know. Strange things could happen, but this is what happened in trade yesterday when it comes to gold. Now, what about our markets? The trade setup for the day. I mentioned that the SGX Nifty is indicating a start, which is not all that bad, and that the late surge of yesterday's session might actually add to the global tailwinds today. So we have global tailwinds, and the late surge essentially adds to that. So we might actually have a good start, and the global picture might actually help us. Reliance Industries, to my mind, is the key monitorable. Yesterday, for a better part of the trading day, you saw how Reliance was battling the downticks that were coming in from all the financial names in trade yesterday, single-handedly, virtually. I mean, Z went up 20% late trade, but that's not a heavyweight. So it was Reliance Industries single-handedly which aided trade yesterday, and that is a key monitorable when it comes to the session today as well. I reckon that yesterday's move was not necessarily a one-day move. We may not have a exaggerated move today. We may have a dip today for all you know. But I think that Reliance is in a good space because of the kind of deal that has happened. Results, commentary from Britannia I think would be very, very important because they will likely set the tone for what the FMCG space might do. Britannia's commentary about what's happened to margins, what's happened to, or what could happen to margins, etc., and how the update in the last 1 week impacted Britannia's numbers, last 1 week of March impacted Britannia's numbers, would likely set the tone for the FMCG space at large. So very, very important number to monitor in the session today would be Britannia. FI flows, though, continue to be negative. Now we've had 5 straight days of negative flows, and this takes us to about $1 billion worth of outflows from the Indian markets in the last 5 odd trading sessions. So not the best of signs, unfortunately. One of the stocks then, therefore, that everybody should be watching out for, aside of Vodafone, which has got that lifeline because of Vodafone PLC sending in that money, I think Deepak Nitrite is an important one. They've mentioned yesterday that all the manufacturing facilities now have commenced operations, and Deepak Phenolics, the one that makes the phenol plant, the phenol subsidiary, has commenced commercial production of isopropyl alcohol. This is used as a solvent and used by pharma companies and for manufacturing of sanitizers. So hot demand right now. Deepak Nitrite has started production. Maybe it's a sentiment positive. Let's wait and watch. Yes Bank, they are seeking shareholder approval for raising additional 5,000 crore rupees in addition to the number that they already announced last week, I think. So this is, well, an interesting stock to monitor as well. Speaking of banks, Morgan Stanley's come out with a note on the Kotak Bank fundraise. So remember, they've maintained the over with the target price of 1,600. They, of course, are referring to that 6.5 crore fundraising plan that Kotak released yesterday, and they believe that FY21 book value per share would increase by about 10%. Pro forma Tier 1 ratio would improve by 290 basis points. So they actually think of this as a positive, and a lot of people do. The fundraising exercise by Kotak Bank currently. Titan would be an interesting one. Goldman Sachs has downgraded the stock to a sell rating from a neutral rating. The target price is 738 from 803, and they believe that it is hitting a demand roadblock. Remember, a lot of NBFCs like Bajaj Finance have been hit badly because of the belief that there's a demand roadblock in place. So Titan now is in focus because of the Goldman Sachs note. Last, in terms of stocks, I think I would watch out for all of the Reliance subsidiaries, if I can call them that. TV18, Balaji Tele, Hathway, all of them, in addition to Reliance, had a big surge in trade yesterday. So from a trader's perspective, do watch out for these names as well. I just have one quick update to give you. Yesterday, Sanjeev Sanyal made a presentation, and in that, a couple of things that he said, because there's a lot of talk around what India is doing to help and not help. So a couple of things that he said, I don't have them as graphics for you, but I'll just speak them out nevertheless. He's speaking about how India hasn't announced one big stimulus package, and it's not that India is unwilling to spend money or that India doesn't understand the difficulties faced, but they are trying to say that they'll make sure that India is cushioned from the shocks, and then in bits and pieces, measures will be announced. India will undertake reforms both at state and center level, and they will roll out the packages in phases. It will not happen at one go. So I think a lot of talk on social media about where is the package for MSMEs, SMEs, and India Inc. Sanjeev Sanyal yesterday mentioning that it will come in phases. Well, we all await. But promises to be a decent day of trade, at least at the start. Let's hope it stays that way from a bull's perspective. Thanks so much, viewers, for tuning into the Trade Setup.